That Friday closure would indicate some fuckery inbound. Let's discuss. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Getting up for a little bit of a later Saturday morning over here from, once again, a negative 5 degrees Celsius, Helsinki, Finland. As always, wish you the best and the happiest. And with that said, we have plenty to discuss, not just short-term timeframes, but also long-term timeframes, as we do have CME closing for the weekly yesterday, and then obviously setting a lot of things into motion. But as it is Saturday and Sunday, and as we did say on the late day wrap-up yesterday, the later day video essentially, that fuckery inbound. So with that said, let's get a little bit more surgical here and put the folks over here on the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krownchain.net. More importantly, with this, it's actually the second to last day that you're even going to see it in this form, so enjoy it while it lasts. And then poof, just like magic, there's going to be a whole new UI going on here, which is going to be oh so sweet, which I'm very excited for. Anyways, let me just make sure that my phone's working. It is. The camera is also working, and we're recording. That's great. All right, excellent. Open interest still hanging around the same levels that we saw from yesterday to today as well. Not really anything too crazy to discuss right there, but does play into the narrative that this market is still within a consolidation nature, and the Bitcoin dominance still playing into the narrative of a rotational market, of which I do want to follow up on that, because that is going to really come into line, especially not with tonight's closure, but actually tomorrow night's closure for the weekly on spot price action, obviously all the rest of cryptocurrencies. Anyways, fear and greed index seems to be broken here too. In fact, I think a lot of this stuff is actually frozen in time right now, come to think of it, as I believe Morinfall might have discussed with me that we're going to have a little bit of issues with the app. So you know what, when I go into the minutia over here, let's see if it's the same thing as what we saw yesterday, and it is not actually on the funny rate. Very, very interesting. But I think that I think that we're going to be a little bit lackadaisical with kind of updating it within these last 2 days, because all the focus right now is on the new overhaul with this. But this data does seem to be correct down here. And more importantly with that, we actually see FTX at negative 0.03% rate. Everyone else kind of at parity except for OKX and FEMX, a little bit out there. And actually Finex posted a negative rate as well. But really not much to make out of that on the weekend hours. And I believe right now it's just going to be a better time to go into price action charts themselves, because we don't necessarily have the best or we don't really have any major insights to be had from that as it is right now. So starting off with CMEs right here for the daily and both weekly closure, which happened yesterday, Friday that is. I do still like this overall, and while we did say yesterday after the $37,500 target was hit from taking out the $33,500 level to the upside yesterday, just like having to fit everything in here, you can reference yesterday's morning video for all of that. I actually really do like this closure as it is right now, but because it is a weekend, I do look for the weekend to be more or less, well, for lack of a better term, fuckery induced or inducing, however. So with that in mind, keep an eye on where CMAs actually did close on Friday, which was 34,855. So I do believe that Bitcoin probably does dip a little bit below there over the weekend time, but once we get around to weekend open or new weekly open tomorrow, that would be Sunday at I believe 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, then I'd be looking for things to kind of crawl their way back around this region and then game on once again. So everything that happens between now and then is kind of second to the setup that I see on CME. Compare that with what we see on spot price action over here, and it's it's kind of like a worlds and days apart. But as it is right now, we do see momentum also specifically on the 3-day here starting to print a little bit of a signal as it is right now. And keep in mind that this one actually is going to be closing tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So what I'd want to see here for the 3-day DMI ADX is I want to see the DMI plus remain dominant, so obviously retain its positive slope as you see right now, and the ADX with the same thing as well. Both of them are currently above the threshold, but I need to see this next tick, which will actually confirm it. And if the tick does come down on either one of these, not just the ADX, not just DMI, but either one of them, then I would not look at that as an efficacious signal. But if we see them both retain their positive slopes, doesn't need to be that crazy positively erect there, but if they just retain that positive slopes, then yes, I would be looking for this to produce its own signal. Obviously 3-day MACD not really giving us too much, as we don't really see a breakage of structure here overall. And more importantly, today we'll have a chance to close above the 9x benchmark moving average as well, which to me that is my lowest period moving average on a chart like this, and usually my charts anyways, and that would suggest that this is still to be considered reaccumulation on the bottom side of this range at about $30,000, or you can make it more like 31,000 to about 40,000 to the upside. Anyways, with that said, today on the lower term time frames, I'd be looking for a little bit of fuckery. I don't really think that, the 3-day plays a whole hell of a lot into, what's going on in the hourly or 4-hour, for the love of God. But as is right now, that's what I'd be looking for to confirm more or less the healthiness of this, or the health signature of this current formation going on right now, leading into tomorrow's open, obviously. So with that in mind, I do believe it would be worthwhile to actually go check out Mr. Beetle as well. And let's go to my more long-term chart right here. Yeah, 1340-ish region, of which we did see the daily closure yesterday, not necessarily on new highs. However, this is still looking actually more or less good to me, believe it or not. And I would essentially be having the same sort of interpretation of this chart as it did yesterday. However, there is now a way to kind of get a little bit more, what's the word that I'm looking for? A little bit more bullish sooner if this condition is met, and that would be taking out yesterday's wick high to the upside, which is 1443, even on, I think this is Bitstamp right here. But bringing up a momentum also does as well. Same sort of signals potentially baking over here as well. We see the ADX really starting to strengthen a bit. DMI Plus is very close to the threshold, not there just yet. And if you are curious on how to actually use this indicator, definitely reference my video on it that was posted on this channel. It's 100% free to go and check out, and that will go into more detail onto how this one actually does work. But in this case right here, if we do see one of two things, either taking out yesterday's wick high to the upside, which again is 1443, or especially close above the top side Toronto band, plus the next signal on the DMI coming out later today at 7 p.m. Eastern time, continue on with this with the DMI plus actually getting dominant, that would be another damn good signal that not only will we once again test the upside, but break out to the upside. And I would imagine that that daily MACD would follow through with that as well. Although I need to put on Caretaker's new reverse function of that so that I can know exactly where that cross the upside would happen, just out of blind or just blind ignorance here. Maybe not blind ignorance, but an educated guess. I would imagine it's probably going to be somewhere around the topside Toronto band as it is right now, which is about 1450, 1460-ish region. So that would be momentum oscillators turning up as trend oscillators and volatility based indicators do start to produce another upside signature, of which then we can start to target 1,800 to 2,000 bucks essentially, and maybe even more than that over time. But for right now, to the downside, it's still the same criteria actually as the prior last couple weeks, and that would be I am essentially bullish on this as long as we are printing that higher low structure. And your last higher low was right around here at about 1111. I would not consider this your higher low because it's not a clear stop and reverse on a daily. If you're looking at a 12-hour, yes it is, but that's not what we're doing this off of. We're doing this off of a daily, and of course you can fit in a nice little trend line there too if you do want to govern those higher lows, and that'd probably be coming in somewhere around 12ish, I would imagine. 1230, yeah, about 1230ish region. So I'd even go as far as saying that as long as the daily's closing above the 20-cent moon average right here, which is basically that same number, then yes, more or less fine. However, can come back down to that region, and I look at that as first and foremost an opportunity. That also means on the other side, if we take out this region, well, that is your reversal and downtrend to come, and we start to target a first move down to about 900 bucks, probably bounce there, but ultimately extremely unlikely for a reversal there, and further continuation down to the $750 level and maybe even beyond would be warranted. But for right now, I give it the benefit of the doubt, and again, CME is really driving that bias as this area still does look like a reaccumulation, which would be implied by this formation right here as an ascending triangle, which would be marked off by our upside resistance right in this area right here. And obviously that would be drawing the measure move to the upside as well, and just kind of doing some bad mental math. I think that would be about a $17 or $1,800 target, again, if that condition is met. So all of that hinges upon that same sort of region. And into the regular charts we go over here, of which, yes, I do want to talk about traditional markets. So should I save this? Yeah, I think I'll save this actually for a little bit later, because right now we are on a bit of a roll with Bitcoin and Mr. Buteral. And so we'll go back on over here and let's go down to the very low term time frame. So again, what I'm speaking about is really only relevant for the next week to come, or what I've spoken about so far is really relevant for the next week to come. I really don't put too much weight on this weekend price action, as we said yesterday. In fact, yesterday I said that if Bitcoin does come back down below 34,500, I'd be looking for another swipe of the lows here. So, granted that, I mean, it technically has broken structure once again to the downside. This one's just flipping and flopping every which way that it fucking looks. But ultimately, if it wants to come back down and base around 32,000 bucks, certainly not out of the question. Maybe even wants to have another stint back down to the blue box territory right around here, which is about 30,800, and that would be not out of the ordinary. Breaking below there, that's when I do get bearish once again. But obviously I want to see it followed up by a volume signature similar to what we saw on any one of these breakout volumes over here, and that would confirm an actual break to the downside. Obviously, we did have that trap a little bit earlier this week, right around the $30,000 level, and that would still hold true if Bitcoin actually does do it. But this one very obviously a trap just based off of the volume signature and also the volatility signature and also the open interest signature when we're coming to this region. But right now, will Bitcoin have another chance to kind of test that out over the weekend? Perhaps yes. Again, I really don't like trading on the weekend for this exact reason. It just usually is a bit of a mess compared to the actual week's direction. So with that in mind, for all of the fucking people with three balls out there trading over the weekend, if you put a gun to my head and said what's going to happen next or what I'd be looking for next, I'd be looking for probably another swipe to the downside, somewhere around about 32,000 bucks, maybe 31,500-ish region. And 4-hour Stokes are pointed healthily down as long as we're below about 36,850, as my dyslexia get in front of my eyes right now. 4-hour RSI is more or less neutral here. I do still like it overall. We actually did get that really critical move outside of the bearish control zone from a couple days ago. Yeah, actually 3 days ago, that is now, on the January 27th. And then we did identify this at the point of time as well, saying, hey, if this is going to retain its long-term constructiveness, we really want to see it take off right here. And that's what we did see. But now just kind of trading sideways over the weekend is more or less warranted. Now, it doesn't really tell us too much about this, just more or less ranging action on the short-term timeframes. And currently speaking, the range on the short-term timeframes is about that same 34,500-ish level that we just spoke about, and pretty much the down pretty much this blue box territory down around here, to be fair. Although I would say that anywhere around just below 32,000 bucks would potentially be a good short-term pivot if you're on like the crack traded timeframes, like an hourly right here. But that's really not my game, and that's really not something that I want to be focusing on. And more importantly, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So let's go back to the 3-hour. And what do we see on the 3-hour? Yeah, still nosediving as long as below 36,850 as well. So 3 and 4-hour are in unison here. 2-hour is actually still down as well, as long as below 34,500 or 34,600 actually. And hourly is going to be showing what is actually trying to pop back up right now, but will be forced back down with any sort of a closure below 33,070 bucks. So what does that account for? Well, seeing as we do see a bit of bifurcation between the short-term timeframes and or just basically the short-term timeframes. is just ranging activity here. Technically speaking, we do have a bit of hidden bullish divergence on the hourly. I'm curious how high of a time frame that goes up to. And buy hourly could put it in if it confirms a local low here, but that's not going to be confirmed until we get back above on a closing basis above about 33,950-ish region. What about on 3-hour? Does this have the same sort of signature? Potentially yes. Same sort of criteria actually for this one. About actually this one a little bit closer to about 34,000 bucks. And 4-hour, not really there just yet. This is certainly not a confirmed low. It looks still like continuation at its current stage. So with that in mind, again, over the weekends, I just don't feel like this is, I really don't feel like this is worth even talking about, to be honest with you. I feel like it's more confusing than anything. Again, if I show you this chart, it's like, wow, that's quite the fake out both ways there. And then if I show you this chart, you're probably like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And this is CMEs. This is the one that I put the most weight on. And this is the one that is running the professional markets, at least in my opinion, as it does hold up with the second largest futures trading volume in cryptocurrency landscape now. But I would even argue that maybe it even is the most, seeing as the current holder of the most liquid futures is technically OKX, but OKX kind of known for their wash trading there. So again, fair enough. I don't know how much I trust the data coming in from OKX. Again, just call it as it is. But in this case right here, I think CME chart has a lot of things going for it, actually. We do see that daily is printing hidden bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3 stabs that we identified a couple days ago. More importantly, we do see that this move is coming above all major moving averages on volume, and we do see that momentum oscillators on the daily turning up as well, as long as we got our closure above 32,000 bucks, which certainly did happen. That's already confirmed. Now we're just waiting for the next open coming in again tomorrow on Sunday. So matching that up with, again, the signals that we saw printing over here on the daily for for, again, CME specifically, not for spot price action, but for CME specifically, we do see, first off, a bullish reset on MACD histogram right here. Essentially, Bitcoin holding the range while not actually breaking down, and even putting in a bit of a, well, about the same low right there. More importantly, what do we see on DMI ADX? We see a signal actually building. DMI Plus is very dominant. ADX starting to really strengthen itself up. This is looking good, but I really want to see this continue on open when we get CMEs trading on Sunday. So keep that in mind. 3-day, kind of similar as well, but not necessarily there just yet. And buy daily doing about the same thing as we do see this strengthen once again. So I like all these things together. CME still kind of tells the story, and CME obviously holding the range here as well. So I just think it's an easier chart to read, but obviously since it doesn't trade over the weekends, that's usually the time to have a bit of flakiness both to the upside and the downside. But seeing as yesterday was mostly an up day, I'd be looking for the downside region to be explored on spot price action. Again, this is one of the big reasons why I do not trade over the weekend, and why I did close out positions on Friday, more importantly, and also kind of referencing back to what we spoke about on the late day wrap up for Friday, saying, hey, things look more or less good, but over the weekend, probably going to test a little bit of downside as it typically does, and that is indeed what we're getting right now. Anyways, check out what the 12-hour is saying at the current moment in time on spot price action. We do see that it is actually still angled to the north side right here, as long as above 31,600-ish region. So fair enough on that one. Again, I mean, it's not really going to give me like major upside targets here, obviously, but it would, it does still kind of play into the narrative that this is more or less fine, more or less a bastion of reaccumulation. What about the daily? Do we see anything of particular note here? Actually, very similar to what we see on CME. It doesn't have the same sort of hidden bullish divergence, to be fair, but we do see that daily Stokes are pointed nice and erect to the upside as long as we're above 31,800. Buy daily is closing. Is that one closing tonight or tomorrow? Tonight, yes, and 3-day is also gonna be closing. Yeah, that one closed tonight as well. So buy daily and 3 daily, both closing at the same time. However, as long as we're below about $37,000 on the 3-day, as we spoke about, and the 2-day 37,750, so about $750 higher than the 3-day, then technically speaking, momentum oscillators will stay to the downside. But I'm really want to see where CMEs actually do open back on up. Is there anything else that I want to be aware of? Yeah, okay, there's something really big over here. Going on to NASDAQ, or actually, do we want to do this right now? No, let's go over and check out Ethereum, because Ethereum, again, does sometimes run the market, and what I'd expect to see if we are going to see rotations continue is I'd expect to see Ethereum kind of take the reins here a little bit, seeing as it's a lot closer to breaking out to the top side here, and that is still looking more or less fine, actually. We do see that daily Ethereum is going to pop back up on our daily Stokes right here. Jesus Christ, man, my voice is, and my thought processes are just fucked up today. Didn't get enough sleep, man. 1370-ish region, of which we're about a clean $30 below right now. So keep that area in mind. If Ethereum does close above that today, do I think that it's actually going to take the next leg up and resolve this ascending triangle to the upside? Very likely, yes. And again, that would have a target up to the next measure move, which would be just below 1800-ish region right here. Ultimately, though, I highly doubt that things actually do stop here, just because I almost never see them stop at the 2-spot extension. Just a little bit of algo profit taking. Realistically, it's 1800 to about $2,000 that I'd be looking to between the 414 and the 618. In this case right now, still looking more or less good. And we do see that it even has a little bit of hidden bullish divergence playing out right now as well. So I do like both of those things in confluence with each other. But of course, I want to see something very specific with what we looked at on the daily for the secondary charts, and then right here that obviously imply obviously if that condition is met on the secondary charts above, I think it was 1440 or 1414. Let's actually double check, or it's just yesterday's high, 1443 actually. Yep. Okay, so 1440-ish region. Then obviously that's going to drag the daily momentum oscillators back up as well. So we'd not only be resolving structure, but also seeing momentum turn in that direction. MACD histogram was also very likely across the upside there too, and then of course DMI plus would have continued its dominance alongside the ADX strengthening as well. So all of that would be really good. And this stair-stepping formation right here is, well, more or less healthy. Again, as long as the higher low structure is met, and that is coming in around, I believe it was 1250-ish region, which we're clean about 400, or not 400, but $100 above at the current moment in time. If we go down to the very low term timeframes, is there anything to be aware of on the 4-hour right here? Looks like my chart's fucked up. Yeah, it does look like once tests a little bit of short-term downside, perhaps. Again, I really don't trust too much on over the weekends, but in this case right here, we do see 1413 is the magical number to remain upside postured on the lower term time frame momentum oscillators. 3 hours going to be showing about the same thing as well, just below 1400 as you can see. So a little bit more pressure down in the more immediate term. So if I did call it right now, I'd probably be looking for another swipe of the downside, maybe somewhere around 1250 to 1280ish region. In fact, based off the bi-hourly right here, about 1280 would be about right. And just moving on to the hourly as well, we do see actually still angled down here too. So yeah, it probably does explore a little bit of the downside of the range. However, would I be calling that a full-on breakdown? No, there's no breakdown of structure here. Again, especially as long as above the daily 21, but that rising trend line is coming in around, actually basically the 21 as well. A little bit below there, I suppose, but about the same at the end of the day. And then of course there is your higher low at about 1111. So as long as those two things are holding, well, not any major issues with it, and I generally favor the upside here. Assuming that the daily meets the condition that we set out earlier. So basically the picture that I'm painting right now is I do think that this weekend very likely ends up being a major opportunity. There is one major counterpoint to the things that I'm saying, however, and that would be this: if you are looking at the traditional markets correlated or still correlated with Bitcoin in the greater cryptocurrency universe, then we'd be looking at Nasdaq right here, and we did fulfill our criteria for reversal 2 days ago. That was, and that is going to drive targets down coming into next week at the very least to 12,650. I would be looking for a short-term bounce there, but ultimately, do I think that things would stop there? Probably not. I wouldn't be surprised to find this thing back down around 12.4, maybe even 12 base. SPY futures a lot more obvious on this one too. We do see that not only is 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence confirmed on the fucking weekly, by the way, that is actually, in fact, it's 4 drives if you want to be super exact with it. That will drive targets back down to just below 3,600 bucks. Sorry, did I get that right? 3,600? Yes. Just below 3,600 bucks. We see weekly momentum also is turning down at the same time. We see weekly RSI getting kicked out of the bullish control zone. Do we see anything else? Do we see any signals here? No, we do not. But what about on the daily? I think the daily had a few other things going for it as well. Yeah, the daily jewel did give a sell signal right here on, or actually first off right here on the 14th of January, then again for a fully perfect one on the 26th of January. And that was exactly where 26th of January was right here. So that actually did get the dump. And the one before that was a setup, I think, back on over, where's the 14th? Right around here, actually. So usually when you see that, it is going to fall in that direction. This is again coming in on expanding volatility. So I do look for this one to probably bounce a little bit off this level to open up next week. However, ultimately, further downside would be implied. We have the same sort of bearish divergence on the weekly here. 1, 2, 3, 4 stabs coming off the last 4 highs. More importantly, we do have a bearish engulfing dildo on decent volume, decent enough at least, while momentum also is turned down. And yes, I would be targeting at the very least a move coming into next week just below 3,600 bucks. And then come back to it after that. Probably a small bounce there, and then I'd want to see it in real time. Do we get an actual shatter below that region? Possible, but I give it a chance at least on the first pass. I mean, I'm just trying to think what would be the next level if that area does break. I suppose 3450-ish region to 3350-ish region. But I'd want to see that one in real time. And obviously that's very far away right now. I'd really only feel comfortable talking about the $3,600 level first and then come back to it after that. So if you are looking at these markets as correlated, well, traditional markets are kind of reversing here, at least for the medium term time frames. And could that carry on over into Bitcoin? Well, potentially yes, I suppose, if you want a little bit more of a bearishly imposed view on this. Anyways, again, if I'm just looking at Bitcoin, and if I'm just looking at CMEs, I do think that this area does essentially get reaccumulated here. Does it swipe back down over the weekend to like $32,000 low? Potentially, yes. I don't have a strong opinion on that. My strong opinion is on the coming week here. The coming week actually still does look pretty damn good. So I do happen to think that this is going to be an opportunity. Again, that's my opinion. I do not trade my opinion. I'll be happy to trade once CMEs open back up again, because I do think that there is a potential long-term trade baking up here. Probably this week, if it is going to work out. Probably this week, actually. Anyways, enough of my stupid opinions. How about some more altcoins? Yeah, you love altcoins. I fucking love altcoins too. Just kidding. Anyways, what about Link? Still stair-stepping its way as well. I still like this one, actually. If it takes out yesterday's high anywhere above 25.77, I'd be looking for this one to melt up towards $28.50. Or sorry, that target's already been met. So realistically, your next real target's gonna be like 31 to 32 bucks. I actually quite like that. In fact, actually, we should check out MicroStrategy. pretty damn good. Actually, we did hit our, Jesus Christ, we did hit our second long-term target here. I haven't even looked at this one in a while, but yeah, would make sense to kind of sell off this area for a little bit, coming in from our May of 2000, literally more than 20 years ago now, major macro resistance. So I probably would be looking for a bit of dramas within this region, but this one's more or less following Bitcoin rather than leading Bitcoin. So I'd be looking at this one as a bit of like a DeLorean trade. Probably does play back down into range, maybe even has another test back down towards like 450 or 430-ish region. But that ultimately very likely does, as we see on spot price action for Bitcoin, turn into an opportunity. So if you are trading that one, it is kind of nice because you do get a bit of, you get to kind of see what Bitcoin's already done before that one makes this move. Kind of different in the way that they respond to each other, but in that case, you can kind of see where it's coming in around. Anyways, daily on Theta, let's not even talk about it. What about DOT? Let's not even talk about it. we did bounce, I think, where we said we would yesterday. No, I would have not called this one yesterday. I would have said bounce at 47,000 satoshis back up to about 50,000 satoshis, which we did. Well, we overshot it first, and then we did get it. But fair enough. Yeah, that's why I don't trade fucking altcoins. How about that? Anyways, let's see. What about ButterL versus Bitcoin? So we did say a bounce yesterday at 3.7 million satoshis, and actually, there we go. 3 points, a little bit lower than that to be fair, but the bounce is in progress right now. Looks pretty damn good. Almost back around 4 million satoshis. I actually still like this one. This is a very, very strong read. We see hidden bullish divergence on the weekly, plus weekly momentum also is still upside angled. I actually quite like this, in fact, and I'd be looking for this one to probably pop back up towards about 4,200,000 satoshis into the next coming week. I do think that ultimately there will be continuation here coming into February. I mean, this looks really fucking good. Any sort of a closure above 3.7 million is very likely to continue over the next few months, I'd imagine, at the very least, to like 5.5 to 6 million satoshis, and then we'll come back to it after that. But not all alts are created equal, apparently, as we do see some like Litecoin can't even hold on to its fucking lows. So that definitely on the other side of that equation, and very interesting right now because we do see bifurcation in this market, which we haven't really seen before, in terms of like some alts just absolutely beasting it, and some alts just getting absolutely fucking pummeled, of which Litecoin definitely on the other side of that one. So going back onto Bitcoin over here, it looks like we already even got that move. So maybe if I'm looking at the lower term timeframes, it's not even worth to even look back down around here. But then again, it is the weekend. You're really seeing me struggle with this because I do struggle with that on the weekend. That's why I don't trade on the fucking weekends. Get that shit out of my face. It just seems like unnecessary risk for me. And seeing as this trend line is no longer relevant, let's get rid of it. What can I say about the lower term timeframes as they are right now? Not much, honestly, to me. This just looks like a whole lot of fucking Jesus toast to me. Maybe we can throw in a volume profile and see if there's anything more interesting right here. Yeah, would still kind of show a little bit of interest a little bit below here, seeing as we did break this volume node, but that is the 34,500 pivot. Okay, so I like that. This is your same, about $32,000 pivot right here. So if we do come back down, $32,000 is like an obvious area. But if Bitcoin does close back above 34.5 on a 4-hour, would that mean anything for me over the weekend? If this was over the weekdays, yes, it would, and I'd target that same move back up to about 37,500, and probably at this point beyond, since we've already kind of met that met that target from before. But over a weekend, do I trust that? I don't, honestly. I really don't. Anyways, okay, there's a few other things that I want to discuss, right? Let's throw in a standard deviation. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Let's actually pull up KVDBs as I want to see what he's showing today. Okay, expected moves. Yes, there we go. Let's see what the 4-hour has to show. Yeah, first standard deviation would be right around that 34.5 level to the upside on the 4-hour, and to the downside, just below $32,000. So I do feel quite confident that is the range for the weekend. And I don't really think that we're going to see too many interesting things until the real trading week starts. So I'll have to wait for CMEs to open, but so far so good, I suppose. Anyways, let's go check out caretakers as well. Looking very good here on the weekly, actually. Any sort of a weekly closure above this white line right here is going to look pretty damn good for trend continuation coming into February, actually. We should probably look at the monthly too. But before we do that, let's see what the daily says. Yeah, showing a massive range right there, as it should. What about the 4-hour? Massive range as well. Let's go for the shorter term time frame range, the weekend range, if you will. And what do we see here? Not really giving us too much, actually. It's a little bit too wide right now. Yeah, I actually would not trust that in that particular situation, but maybe joke's on me in this case. Yeah, so in this case, I'm actually finding that a lot of my edges are just not something that I want to be using in a range like this. I really want to see how the open comes in tomorrow for CMEs, but ultimately things do look good as they are right now. It's just really more or less a question of me over the weekend. Do we get another swipe to the downside, maybe around 32,000 bucks or a little bit below there? And if Bitcoin does get a 4-hour closure above this last pivot at 34.5, technically speaking, I should be bullish off that, but I really just don't like this weekend trading environment. Do we have any sort of divergences now building up, seeing as Bitcoin is putting in a little bit of a short-term low? Yes, hourly is certainly confirmed. Buy hourly is in the process of being confirmed. Will be confirmed with any sort of a closure here or higher in the next 58 seconds. So you know what? Let's just wait around for this one. Yeah, this video is only 30 minutes long, so that's fine by me. And 3 hours going to be doing the same thing as well, confirming in actually 1 hour from now. But I imagine if the 2 hour does confirm, then yes, we probably do see another move back up. And you know what? I'm going to have to swing back around on the earlier analysis and say, hey, no, that's not going to be correct. Short term is very likely to test back up towards $35,000 plus. Again, this likely does turn into an opportunity, but let's wait for this one to actually close. We got 28 seconds left to go. I think I'll just kind of peruse around the market here until then, just see what else is up to spend some time. What about Ling versus Bitcoin? Short term down, daily down as well. What about the weekly? Weekly still long term fine. I'd still be looking for like 100,000 satoshis plus long term, but short term probably a little bit of downside displeasures. What else do we have? Maybe Ripple. What is Ripple doing? Sideways AF, not doing shit. All right, and there we go. There is the closure. Let's go back to Bitcoin, see if it did indeed confirm those levels, and it did. Actually did it. Hey, show it to me. Motherfucker. Mother of a fuck. I would consider this one confirmed, seeing as we did close above the last wick high. Yeah, 33,927 closure, or sorry, high versus 34,030 closure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one is certainly confirmed. I'd be looking for a short-term move back up into the upper $35,000 region, somewhere around 35.5 to about 35.8 region, and then does it get continuation on top of that? Perhaps yes. Again, I really don't have a strong opinion over the weekend. It's all a setup for the CME Open coming in tomorrow, which I would still be bullishly biased on it, to be fair. Looking at also the monthly, which is going to close in just a couple of days here, as we are on the 30th. So 1 day, 2 days left of trading on spot price action. Technically speaking, that does mean that CMEs have already closed for the monthly, hasn't it? Let's see. Yeah. Technically yes, because when they open up tomorrow, that's going to be for the 1st, right? Yeah. Yes, it would. So this is the monthly closure for CME. Actually is a little more concerning, to be fair. I think I'll hold off on saying anything more, though, until we get spot price action, just because it doesn't have the same history as CME. But looking at this right here, any sort of a closure above 34,600 bucks, we actually will still see momentum also is pointed northwards. Again, a lot can happen in 2 days, and seeing as Bitcoin can sneeze and produce $1,000 move, that means absolutely fucking nothing right now. Monthly RSI getting pretty exaggerated there, to be fair. Getting pretty fucking exaggerated, but we don't necessarily see any sort of a confirmed local high just yet. This is going to be a very interesting end of the month. Oh boy, this is going to be a very interesting end of the month here. Other than that, though, I think I'll wait until at the very least tomorrow, so we can have a little bit more of a clear clarity on this situation. So yeah, for now, I think Bitcoin very likely just gave you an opportunity right there. I'd be looking for it to pop back up, probably towards a little bit shy of 36,000 bucks. Again, if this was any other time but a fucking weekend, I think that this would be pretty damn obvious. But because it is a weekend, I do still want to keep open the possibility of it coming back down about 32,000 bucks or even a little bit below there. But ultimately, I do still think that CME is showing the way. Anyways, let's wrap this bitch up. I'm going to. Yeah, let's throw on these right here. Actually, let's go to this chart right here. Throw on these. Okay, and let's make sure that we focus on CMEs here as well. Okay. What about the weekly? All right, sweet. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, let's wrap this bitch up. First and foremost, focus on the CME, as I do believe that spot price action is a little bit of a fuckery opportunity over the weekends. And as we do see, CME did close the week out at 34,850, which is more or less fine within this region and does sit in a little bit of a structural low off of this, what would be called a doji-ish dildo, meaning that if we do have continuation above the high side of this week, which would be 39,100 on CME specifically, obviously spot price action is going to be a little bit different, then I would be looking for not just a new all-time high, but or not just a retest of the prior all-time highs, which on this chart is just below 32,000 bucks, but new all-time highs, probably into the $50,000 region over the next couple months, if I had to guess. Now, with that said, CME is showing a completely different picture than what we saw on spot price action, and I do put the most weight on CME. I do still look at this on the daily as more or less good. We did close above the 20 simple. We did close above the bull trap pit, or sorry, the bear trap pivot from 2 days ago. So that was producing our upside bias coming into yesterday to that $37,500 target. Now, when CME does close, I would essentially be looking for this signature to continue upon open tomorrow on Sunday. Very, very specific here. If we see the DMI plus remain dominant with its positive slope, plus the ADX all strengthen as well, that's going to be a damn good indication that Bitcoin is going to pull through here and basically put in a reaccumulation phase, of which we are maybe in the process of completing right now, as well as daily MACD also crossing up to the, also having essentially a bullish reset and giving it a chance to actually cross the upside with any sort of a closure. I'd imagine if we put the reverse function on it, anywhere above about 40,000 bucks, but still need to put that on my charts here, and I need to release that video as well. But I think I need to release the video first before I actually talk about it. Anyways, on the short-term timeframes, again, I like the way that CME looks. I like the way that they closed out on Friday. But seeing as it is a Saturday and people are insistent on trading over the fucking weekends when professional markets are not, well, fair enough, to each their own. But in this case here, if it was anything other than a weekend, I would say, yeah, obviously we have hidden bullish divergence on the lower term timeframes here. Buy hourly did confirm it. The 3 hour is in the process of confirming it on the next closure, which will be confirmed with any sort of a closure above about 33,900. And then I would be targeting to move back up towards 35,500 to 36,000 bucks. Anywhere around there would look fine, and that's going to start to turn back up our momentum. Or actually, no, will not turn back up our momentum oscillator. So fair enough on that one. I would hold steady on that. But because it is a weekend, a lot of the time you do see just counter moves and a lot of washout moves. And in this case, if Bitcoin wanted to come back down, anywhere around 32,000 bucks, maybe a little bit below there, I'd look at that as an opportunity. To be honest with you, it's just I really am hesitant to say more direct things over the weekend like that on the lower term time frames. To me, it's all set up for the CME open to come. So with that said, things still look good here. I do think that short-term timeframes do try another move back up a little bit past 35,000 bucks or 35,500-ish region. And of course, we do see that Ethereum also still looking more or less fine as well, as long as it holds the daily uptrend, of which our last higher low coming in around 1111 still. And I'd even just be generally bullish on it as long as it's above the 21 exponential average right here. And I'd look for Ethereum to actually lead into this next one. If Ethereum breaks out, because it's it's closer to breaking out than Bitcoin, then I'd essentially be looking for Bitcoin to mimic that move over time. We do see that 1370 is the magical number for turning daily momentum oscillators back onto the upside, which are currently about 30 bucks away from right now. We do see that daily RSI has hidden bullish divergence, and we do see on the 12 hour already momentum is actually turning back up as long as we get this next closure above 1330-ish region. So I do like all of these things in conjunction with each other, and I look for Ethereum to essentially set the tone on this one. It does have a bit of an ascending triangle going on right here as well, obviously, and if that does get resolved by taking out basically yesterday's high, which was 1440-ish region, then 1,800 and 2,000 bucks are essentially on the table, and we'll come back to it after that. So with that said, I do want to wish you the best and the happiest. Have a nice little Saturday fuckery in your life, and I'll be back on tomorrow doing the same thing, same time, same place. Wish you well, and until next time.